add to those protein sources and showed them like a more efficient route for their planning.
We'll plan on doing that. Okay, it's 6 o'clock. So we'll call the July meeting of the Waushara County Board of Supervisors to order. Start out with roll call. Get my thing up. I'm here. I just don't have the thing.
Bob would like to
I got
make
it
the
turned
record
off, but
show.
mine's still doing some kind of thing.
Yeah, mine too.
It says, please wait,
Yeah.
I'm here.
Okay. All right. Then we can stand for the silent prayer and pledge of allegiance.
5 minutes. Tired.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. I would look for a motion to approve the agenda, and could I ask that we move resolution D2 up to right before new business? Okay, motion with that from Brandon, second for Dave. Is there any discussion on that? All right, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. We had no one sign up for public comments, unfinished business, and we'll move right into that resolution then, resolution D2. Oh, wait a second. Oh, I'm sorry. I missed that. Before we do that, can we approve the minutes of June 20th, 2023 monthly meeting? Okay, moved by Pat. Second. Okay, second by Brandon. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, sorry. Now we can go on. Clara?
Good evening. Thank you for having me here tonight. Clara Voigtlander, I'm the Director of Human Services. And tonight I'm honored to present a resolution recognizing Shelley Reetz's retirement. So Shelley Reetz began her employment with Waushara County in the Human Services Department on February 19th of 1979. She's held a variety of positions that have provided supported services to our department, including administrative specialist and access worker. Shelley's been instrumental in coordinating, organizing, and processing mandated child abuse and youth justice referrals, which ensures safety and services to the families that we work with in Waushara County. Shelley has served as a consistent and predictable source of program knowledge in county government functioning. And Shelley's dedication has provided many citizens and visitors with a safe and healthy community to live, work, and receive services in. Shelley is held in high regard and esteem amongst her colleagues for her kind demeanor and unwavering calm and kindness. And Shelley has served the county with distinction for over 44 years as an employee, treating both colleagues and consumers with compassion, attention, and respect until her retirement date on June 2nd, 2023. So now therefore be it resolved by the Waushara County Board of Supervisors, which on behalf of the grateful residents of Waushara County does hereby commend Shelley Reetz for her long, distinguished, and conscientious service in the Department of Human Services, and be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be shared with Shelley, along with best wishes for a long and enjoyable retirement filled with contentment and good health.
Good. Very good. Thank you, Clara. Can we get a motion for the resolution number 1007-23 to acknowledge Shelley Reetz? Okay. Moved by Bob, second by Everett. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, very good.
And I just wanted to thank the board for recognizing Shelley. Shelley truly has been the consummate employee. And I think her 44 years of dedication and service here is exactly what we hope for in employees of our agency, that devotion and dedication to both the consumers that we work with and our colleagues. So I hope Shelley's okay with me sharing this. She asked that the motion be moved up, and thank you for doing that because she is enjoying retirement and wants to be able to enjoy the Brewers game tonight with her husband. So from such a dedicated employee that made me so happy. She deserves that.
Yeah.
So thank you.
And honestly, 44 years, is very commendable. Yeah. Thank you, Shelley. All right, very good. Okay, with that, then we'll move into new business with number one being the Bug Tussel progress update with Bug Tussel's representative, Sam Sheneke. Sam?
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be back. I'm Sam Sheneke. I am the marketing design strategist with Bug Tussel. This is our 6-month update from back in January when we updated our progress on the fiber broadband project here in Washera County. So we've got some great things coming. So we're happy to be here to share what we've got. There we go. All right. So a few things to discuss tonight. First, we're going to start with the phase 1 route and progress. We're going to kind of go into what we're doing for the county buildings, go on to what we have done wirelessly for the tower projects here as part of the broadband project, discuss phase 2 steps, and then some of the misinformation that's kind of going around here in the county that we just want to address right up front. So up here we have the phase 1 route. So this is what it looks like across the county. This is fully designed, fully permitted as well. So everything is ready to go into construction. Sorry. All right, so here's the progress that we have made. So right now we have KES Excavating Services, a Bug Tussel owned construction service leading up the project here in the county. And we do have a few hired contractors on staff as well, just due to the size of the project. This is showing up to be probably one of the biggest projects that Washera County has undertaken from a broadband standpoint. And we're doing about 12 other counties with similar projects. So we have a few helping hands on board along with what KES is doing. So what you are seeing up front here, kind of working our way backwards, the southwest corner of the county, we have live fiber. So that is up in the Plainfield area. Most of the western side of the county is in the process of making connections. So that's where they're actually getting the network online, getting ready for distribution, getting ready to serve customers. So around the Watoma area here, we do have fiber in the ground. There is a little bit of conduit left actually leading up to Watoma, but we are quickly going to be getting the fiber in the ground over this next month and getting that will actually hook into the county buildings here, which I'll talk about in a minute. And then the eastern side, as mentioned, is permitted and designed, and construction just needs to take place now. So here's a little bit of a zoom in on the Watoma area, as there's some questions about the Watoma buildings here at the county buildings. So that orange stretch is where we just have to put the fiber for the main line, which KES will be taking care of in the next month here. And then the drops to the county buildings will take place as well, and the physical connections will be made. This is the current status of our wireless tower project. So at this moment, we have 21 live tower sites here in the county with a few more on the way. Many of these will be hooked into the fiber route as well that are en route. So they will have a bit of a symbiotic relationship there where the fiber and the wireless will provide data connections for each other. And we will see improved services on both sides as a result. So phase 2, we get a lot of questions about what's coming after phase 1, kind of shown on the left here, and the tower progress. So there's always the option of a phase 2. Right now, BEAD funding from the federal government has awarded $1 billion in funds to the state of Wisconsin, which are available for the counties to take part in. Of this funding, it can be used for a project here in Washera for an expansion on the fiber project that's already been undertaken. So what this would look like is it would target the uncovered areas where Bug Tussel is not covering with the phase 1 of the route. This could also be covered by other ISPs, as this is an open access design where they can hook into this and provide their own build off for it. So there has been discussions already about many of the lake associations and other similar areas where there's high populations that are unserved here in the county that phase 2 could target. So right now, that is something that is on the table as we are still trying to finish phase 1, but discussions are happening as to what that would look like for a phase 2. And then we just want to go over a little bit of misinformation. Someone put a bug in your ear and not a good one. A couple things going around statewide. Some people are saying that Bug Tussel is on the verge of bankruptcy. That is a false claim. This is something we have heard from top to bottom in Wisconsin. We believe this is as a result of some of our projects reaching their budgetary limits, and that was taken as there is no money left. But in reality, Bug Tussel is currently sitting with over $100 million in assets and finances, and are looking to procure another $100 million in finances as well through investors. So we are the opposite of going bankrupt. We are actually growing. And just to give an example of how much we are growing, in the last year and a half, we have gone from 75 employees to over 200 employees. So we are seeing some rapid expansion and the opposite of a bankrupt company. There have also been some questions about where work is being done. We have had complaints of a bit of work being done in certain areas of the county that was not up to par with what residents would like to see, that was said to be Bug Tussel, but was not. So there are other companies in Washera County doing fiber or cable related work. And we just want to make sure that when there are accusations of this, that people are reaching out to Bug Tussel via the number on screen, just to make sure that they are in an area where we are working, because we want to resolve issues that are coming up. But in a lot of these cases, we are finding that they are not as a result of our work. And there is just a little bit of misinformation out there about us doing that work that is not true. So that is all I really have to share tonight. So if anybody has questions, I'm willing to take them now, or we have time after the meeting to take them as well.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Sam? I know that is the hot topic at most lake association meetings, is when are they going to finish around the
Yeah.
lakes? But so it's good to know that, you know, you're looking at a phase 2, and you said there is other companies that are looking to hook on, or they just have the ability.
That's the ability to. So this entire route is a open access design, meaning that they, instead of having to build over what's already been built, they can just make a connection point there for a small monthly fee. And then they can build off of that to make their own networks off of that.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions for Sam? Okay. Well, maybe afterwards someone will have some for you. Thank you, Sam.
you.
Appreciate it. All right. Number 2, item number 2, County Administrator's Monthly Report.
Good evening. And just a comment on the partnership with Bug Tussel. I have to say they've been a great partner. If anything comes up, we're getting community questions. They usually come to me or Barry. I'm not sure if anyone else is fielding them, but we get contact back almost within a day or so from Bug Tussel. So if you are getting those questions, send those on to Barry, because he's sort of spearheading it, or myself, and then we are getting a response. If you're not getting a response, that would be unusual, but let us know. But we have very much enjoyed the partnership with Bug Tussel and the communication. So, and I'm excited to also be working with the BEAD funding. Barry's working on it. And we are in the conversation to be part of getting the funds to move us into that next level. So we're not using county funds when there are state funds or federal funds available. So those meetings are almost every other week at this point, and we'll keep you updated on that. But we have been getting requests on when is this going to get done, and they can't get it done fast enough, but they're working on it. So so just to give an update on the financials, we did just get out a big batch of past due notices on things. So if you're hearing anything from your constituents, I've got this bill, and it was from February or March. That's why we were a little bit behind with the Tyler software system and some of the duplexes that were in the system. So if you hear anything, that's probably why people got notices maybe just a little bit late. And if they do believe they paid it, just let them know to call the county, and Treasurer or Finance will help them through that issue. Sarah has been busy with the audit, and we're in a much better place than we were last year when we were having all the issues with getting all the EMS reconciled. So that's a positive, and we're working on the budget. We don't have health insurance numbers yet, and we will be getting insurance numbers on our other providers for auto, liability, all of those policies to see if we can get a better deal or better discount, maybe by bundling. But we'll get back to you on that. We did look at the technology budget, and we charge out for IT costs to the departments. And so we looked at that and saw where we could maybe cut a few things this year so we could reduce that impact to the end user. So that's a positive. And we had a discussion that there's no real doing more with less anymore. We're beyond that point. So we're having discussions about how we can maybe be more efficient, or how we can utilize other departments or each other on our processes, and just coming up with some ideas with that. Right now, we're in deep discussions with buildings and grounds and parks, for instance, on how we can stop maybe both departments doing cutting of the lawn, and maybe parks can take over some of that, say out at the EMS building out in Poisippi, and just seeing if we can have some organizational efficiencies without actually adding staff or cutting staff or cutting back on any of our equipment. So this year we are in negotiations with both unions, the EMS and also the police union. And the meetings just started this week, so that will have an impact on our budget depending on how those negotiations go. And I thank Ruth for getting that started for us. She's happy about that. And we did have a CIP meeting this year, and we're starting the discussions about, we need departments to start looking 5 years out. What are you going to need in 5 years, in 6 years? And how can we kind of better plan for the future, as opposed to, oh, I need this replaced this year, and it would have been nice to have known that 2 years ago as we were planning and prioritizing. Our investments look good. Jesse in the treasurer's office keeps a good eye on the investments, and as we come up to our maturity date, she's investing that so that we're making the best on the money that's in the bank. The rates are much better now than they had been a year or so ago. So she's staying on top of that. And she's also on top of the tax foreclosure process, where we had 200-ish properties that were eligible for tax foreclosure. We are around 98, I believe. So that's really positive. That means people are paying their taxes and not going through the process, and getting more up to speed is providing, because you're not seeing a lot of them come here anymore. Just staying on top of it is, I think, been beneficial. And they have made some changes with Act 216 on how the counties do the foreclosure process, that they're doing some webinars on, and stay tuned. We'll explain how that's going to impact us. But basically, we can't keep the excess anymore. Not that there normally is a lot of excess, but we no longer are able to do that, and we have to give that money back to the parties if there was an excess after the sale. With the building, everything is, to my knowledge, on schedule. And the current facilities, we have 3 facilities here that need to get cleaned out. The garage over in the parking lot, there's a garage across the street, and then the annex. Both that garage and the one across the street are done and cleaned out and organized. So that's a positive. Kudos to the buildings and grounds and all the departments that went ahead and did that. The annex will take a little bit longer, but we have to get prepared, because in about a year from now we will be moved, and we don't want to have all that still here. And the move scheduling is, we're going to start talking about scheduling of the move from this building into the government center on August 8th. So that'll be the first preliminary meeting. We had some meetings with the courts on how that will look for moving security and the courts, just to get preliminary, because they schedule out on their calendar a year at least. So we've had some of those preliminary discussions, but that's when we'll start talking about that. And then after that, we'll be talking about the signage that we will be putting at the government center inside and at the outside. next month I'll be sharing what came of the steering committees from Wisconsin Counties Association, from the judiciary and the personnel and finance. I'll send those presentations out in advance. And lastly, I wanted to just share a couple things that occurred in the county and just give a couple shout outs. I think everyone knows about the fire that occurred recently, and I just have to say how this community just shines. And it goes from the fire departments that were involved, Alan with emergency management, the EMS, the sheriff's office, the highway had people out there, Department of Aging was on standby, public health was involved, DHS was involved, the medical examiner was involved in some accidents recently. The operators at the school, county board members providing a place for safe haven for any animals. And I got back to work, and I had NGIS was here doing maps for the police. And I got back to work, and Megan had said, she was checking in on people. And when something like that happens in your community and you see all of those people care about your organization, it just warms your heart, and it tells you what kind of organization that we have here. And so I just wanted to share that almost every department had a play in that incident, and I just wanted to share what an important piece that you all play and that your employees play here. So any questions about the fire or anything else?
Anybody have any questions? Yeah, Dave.
Has there been any forward progress with our insurance company and the Poisippi claim?
With the ambulance?
Yes.
No, and we're on, I don't remember the last time I heard back from them, but we, based on that, we are looking at other providers.
I have a question for you, Melissa. With the new budget, do you know yet how that's going to impact us? I know there's like the shared revenue portion and there's innovation grants, but I think through different departments, there's more monies available. Do you have any idea how that's going to positively affect us?
Well, we have, last year, I think we had to cut 2.5 million after we got the budgets back.
Mhm.
And we have a couple of high costs that we know we may be having through at least one of the departments. So I'm not really sure, to be honest. They're doing a shared revenue webinar, I believe, tomorrow. And after that, I'll share that information. We are getting more money.
Mhm.
And I don't know what other departments might be getting more money. Was it?
Additional reimbursement. This position that they're supposed to be funding at 80%, but have it about 37%.
Yeah.
It's going to be funded at 60% next year. So we are giving there. There is additional money in some of the human services departments, but did not. So there is a little bit more substantial, but it's probably going to, it'll be helpful. We're still the issues of insurance increase this year. Just the cost of some materials and stuff that we still have are still increasing costs. So shared revenue there, it's a big percentage, but we had such a small amount that it still doesn't amount to even enough to cover the insurance increase.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, I know there was they're hoping to fund more of a conservation position, and that got cut and things like that too. So, but I know there's innovation grants, and we are kind of looking at what we can do there too to possibly get
Yes.
some of those as
And
well.
actually, just to bounce off of that, we are having meetings with Green Lake and Marquette because there are innovation grants that are available, and there is going to be some guidance sent out or done by WCA. They got a lot to do recently for us. So, but once we know what the parameters are and what will qualify, what we had a first initial meeting with them about possibly combining resources with EMS. because Washera County is a model county. If you go anywhere, they look at our EMS and say, how are you doing that? So that was one. And
Possibly with Green Lake with some housing or something for youth or something.
Yep, behavioral health,
Yeah.
maybe some behavioral health. And so these are all preliminary discussions. And once we know what it is, then we'll start to have some more in-depth conversations. And then actually at the ICC meeting, we are hosting that this on August 21st, I believe it is, a Monday. And I can send the date out. You're all invited to come. In the ICC meeting, we'll be talking about innovation grants and then also topics for the ICC. That ICC is, I believe it's 7 or 8 counties that meet throughout our counties throughout the year and just talk about various issues. And we want to set a schedule so that we can make sure that the right folks get there and we can get our county folks, the appropriate people there. It's not always meaningful to me where it might be meaningful to the sheriff or the corp counsel.
Okay, good. Thank you, Melissa. Is there anybody who need questions? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, item 3 is the county clerk's office annual report. Megan.
All right, good evening. So I've included a written report in your packet. So I'm sure everyone's read it all ahead of time, but I'm going to breeze through a few things tonight. Certainly, if you have questions at the end, feel free to ask those. It is not working up here tonight, Melissa or Barry. Tonight.
Your technology.
It was working up there. Maybe I just
From Barry.
Oh, there it is.
Okay. So my position, like yours, is an elected position. The clerk is a county constitutional officer prescribed by state statute. So like yours, mine is elected. Unlike yours, mine is a partisan position, and my position is a 4-year term. Current term expires January of 25, which means I will be on the ballot next November, or I should say the county clerk's position will be on the ballot. I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but the position will be on the ballot next November. It always coincides with that of the president. Staff in my office consists of my position, which is elected, as well as 1 appointed deputy county clerk. If you can go forward, please. Thank you. Listed up here are our core statutory duties. Obviously, as clerk to the county board, I prepare agendas and minutes for meetings and keep records of those. I'm the chief election official for the county and some various licenses that we issue. Next slide, please. And some additional duties and services that we offer. Statewide voter registration system entry that we provide for 18 out of our 26 municipalities. We are a passport acceptance agents, among some other duties that I have listed there and expound upon a bit in the written report as well. Next, thank you. Sorry, these are individuals. So a couple of things that took place in our office in 2022. Actually back in 2020, all of our municipalities had purchased new voting machines, which were first implemented in our elections in 2022. So most of us first utilized those last April. In March of last year, we conducted training for about 70 of our municipal clerks and election officials throughout the county. In April, after the county board supervisor race, we conducted a recount as requested by one of the candidates for county board supervisory district 7. I just like to point out with a recount, we commonly think it's just recounting the votes. There's a lot more involved. When we're doing a recount, it's a full hand count, so we're not utilizing machines. We're hand counting the paper ballots. We do a full review of poll books to reconcile that all of the number of voters matches the number of ballots that we have, reconciling participation, absentee logs we review to verify we have the correct number of absentee ballots. We do a review of all of the absentee certificate envelopes to make sure that those were all accepted properly. And then after that's all done, then we retally the results. And after that, for that race, everything came out 100% as they were certified. Kind of a broken record here, but as other departments have mentioned, of course, last year was the implementation of Tyler Technologies. My deputy at the time was very instrumental in part of that implementation with the accounts payable and receivable module, so she played a big role in that. We had a pretty significant change in marriage license laws last year that went into effect in July that changed where couples can apply and the validity dates of licenses. And then I do just point out as well, as most of you already know, my deputy who I had for about 5 years took a different position with the county late last year. So that left the deputy role vacant for about 3 months. So just a couple of licensing trends you see here. These are marriage licenses issued. In 2022, we issued 111 licenses. Surprisingly, we did not see a decline in those with COVID. Those remained steady and actually went up slightly. Dog licensing has been on the downward trend since about 2013. Enforcement of that is not with our office. We just simply issue the licenses to verify that rabies are up to date. I like to tell the kids when they come in for county government days, so I'll remind it here as well. It's a common misconception. People think, oh, I live in the country, my dog doesn't need a license because I don't live in the city, which is not true. Any dog anywhere within the state is required to be licensed. And again, we're verifying that they're up to date with rabies. And then that way we can also check in with the sheriff's department or our kennel provider if there's a dog that's loose to try to reunite them with their owner. Cutting notices are filed in our office. We did 130 of those last year. Primarily what we're doing is we're ensuring that taxes are up to date before any landowner is cutting timber and harvesting that for profit. Passport trends. So not surprisingly, there was a huge impact on travel and passport applications with COVID. So there was a huge dip in 2020 through 2022. I will point out that you can see the, if you can do the next one, the year to date. So for the first 6 months of this year, we're already at 76% of what we did all of last year. So nationwide right now, they're seeing historic numbers for passport issuance and applications being accepted. These numbers here are also not including any renewals that we assist with. These are simply applications for new passports that we process through our office, and renewals that we assist with are probably about the same as applications processed there. Next one. I'm going to dive very slightly into elections. A lot of what we do in our office focuses around elections. There's obviously been a lot of media attention surrounding elections since November 2020. Elections administration is incredibly complex. So I'm going to just touch on a couple of things at very high level overview, just so you can see some of the processes that we do to ensure safe, secure, and accurate elections in Waushara County. Next, okay. As I mentioned, we implemented new voting equipment last year. So our previous machines had reached end of life. We had touchscreen machines for, I think, about 13 years prior, and they had reached end of life and they were no longer being maintained. So the municipalities used COVID grant funding to purchase their new machines. Those were implemented last year. Some things you might not know about that is there are public tests conducted of every single voting machine prior to every single election. They are public tests, which are published in the paper, so anybody can come to them, where they're testing the accuracy of the machines to make sure they're tabulating properly. We also conduct post-election audits. They are voluntary, but they're something that we do in Waushara County after every single election. So we randomly select 2 municipalities. We hand audit, randomly select 1 contest to hand audit to confirm the accuracy of those votes. I've implemented those since 2018. In that time, I have had 1 discrepancy, and it was human error in a hand count ballot. Let's see. I will just point out the machines that we have in Waushara County are not connected to the internet. They also have no capabilities of being connected to the internet. You probably hear on the news people modeming. That's not something that we do in Waushara County. It's something we have no intentions of doing here. And again, the versions of the machines we have do not have the capability to modem. There's also physical security measures in place, of course. Ballots, machines, cartridges, everything is stored securely. I will note, once we get to the new building, I'm super excited that I have a secured election room right in our suite that will have key card access, so that we'll have record of anybody going into that room, which should just be myself and my deputy. There's also chain of custody logs for all cartridges for all the machines, from when they come into my office to when they go out to each municipality. Same thing with all of the ballots. Ballots are stored for 22 months after an election. They are in secured, tamper-evident sealed bags. There's serial numbers recorded for all of those. So all of that is documented for chain of custody. Voter list maintenance is something that has come up since 2020, since the 2020 election as well. So what are some things we do to ensure checks and balances there? There are a lot of voter verification postcards that are sent out to voters. So like the sample that we have up there is a mover's postcard. Our systems connect with others such as the DMV to try to identify voters that we think may have moved, reach out to them to confirm if they're still at that address. And then if they are, they would have to verify that in order to remain on the voter rolls. Voters who register on election day get a postcard sent to them to the address that they've registered at to confirm that they do in fact reside at the address that they've listed on their application. In the extremely rare event that somebody is no longer at that address and that postcard gets returned, sometimes it is possible that a voter has moved. But if there were an issue, those can also be referred to the district attorneys for prosecution if there was any potential for fraud. And then we also check up on deaths, felons, duplicates, incompetent voters. We do monthly checks on those, checking our systems check with the Department of Health to verify any voters that may have passed away so that we're removing those from the voter rolls as well. And then just a little bit about absentee voting. So absentee voting by mail can occur as soon as ballots are available prior to an election. In-person absentee voting, or you might hear it as early voting in other states, can occur just for the 2 weeks prior to an election. Anytime anyone's voting absentee, regular voters do still have to provide photo ID. So if they are requesting a ballot by mail, they have to show a copy of their photo ID at some point to the clerk if they don't have one on file already. Every ballot that goes out is initialed by the clerk or deputy clerk. And it's also tracked anytime somebody requests a ballot, anytime a ballot gets mailed out to a voter, and whenever that ballot comes back. So then when they're processing the absentee ballots on election day, the absentee ballot envelopes that they have are matched to the absentee log and matched to the registration list to confirm that this voter did in fact request and return an absentee ballot. That way that a voter obviously can't show up at the polls and vote on election day as well. So all of that stuff is tracked and matched. Next one, please. So absentee voting has been on the rise. So looking back at fall elections, back to pre-COVID numbers, absentee volume was about 9 to 10% or so of overall voter turnout. Obviously, we had a huge spike in 2020 where about a third of our ballots were absentee voters. And post-COVID, while the numbers have come down significantly, absentee voter trend overall is on the rise. And then just pointing out also just voter turnout again, it's really hard to compare voter turnout election to election because it depends on what's on the ballot, the political landscape of things. So I'm going back every 4 years here because I'm comparing like elections. So the election cycle is primarily every 4 years. So looking back at the last 4 governor elections, as you know, Washington County population has really not changed a whole lot since 2010. But you can see our voter turnout, number of ballots cast has raised significantly from governor election to election there. And then I just like to point out the cost of elections so you can see what some of the costs go to from the budgets, which is about a third of my budget. So these are some of the costs associated. There's a lot of required notices that are published in the newspaper. That's about $9,500 from last year. Ballots were around $24,000. Programming of equipment came to just under $47,000. So that combined was about $82,500. Of that, we recouped about $29,000 from fees that were reimbursed that were actually municipal costs that they returned to the county. And just note that these figures here don't include any wages. They don't include municipal costs for like poll workers, publishing notices, absentee balloting costs are not included in there. That's all municipal level costs. Okay, so looking ahead beyond 2022 and what's on the horizon. So the state is currently revamping the absentee certificate envelope, which let's call it a prototype. The sample one is right there. I was able to participate in usability testing for those. The final design is not yet approved, but I was able to provide some feedback on those. So there's obviously a cost associated with that. We have to purchase all new envelopes for absentee voting. There is a grant from the state right now that I'm working with municipalities to apply for to replenish their stock of the new absentees once those are approved. We are currently in the process of digitizing some of our past county board records so that it'll make it easier for research purposes when we're looking back at resolutions that maybe occurred 10 years ago, so that we don't have to sit and flip through paper books, but we can do a keyword search on those. Working on incoming and outgoing mail processing. It's something that my office will be taking over once we get to the new building. So we're currently exploring options, and I'll be handling that once we move next year. With the passage of ordinance number 678, which you guys just passed recently, my office will be becoming involved in the sale of tax deed properties. So I will be working with Jesse in the treasurer's office soon to start taking on some of those additional duties. Obviously, next year is a presidential election year, which is a pretty heavy workload on our office. And luckily, the move to the new building is going to be timed right between our April presidential preference and August partisan primary. So if we can keep that on track, we'll be all right. So that's kind of what's ahead for us. And that's all that I have, unless you have any questions for me.
It's very obvious that the job demands a high degree of someone who is very meticulous. We're really fortunate to have Megan in that position. Does anybody have any questions for her tonight? Dave?
I would just like to say, as a firsthand witness of a recount election, I have to say that it is an amazing system of checks and balances that both the county clerk and the town clerks have. And the accountability level is beyond imagination, really.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just very grateful for the security that our elections have, thanks to our clerks. So thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Megan. Very good report. Thank you. Okay. Very good. Okay. Well, item B is a discussion item. We're going to talk about the enterprise fleet management proposal for the 2024 budget.
Okay. So what's being passed around right now is what we're doing today is it's just a discussion of the enterprise fleet management program. And what we wanted to do is to be an open mind and see what other options do we have as opposed to funding our fleet through our operating budget. Because as budgets get tighter and tighter, we don't have the funds to do so. So other counties, cities, municipalities have gone to fleet programs, and departments and a couple of the county board members, myself, have talked with Enterprise, and we ran some scenarios, and for some of the vehicles, it doesn't make sense. Some it does. We had worked on pulling in the Department of Aging bans. We ran the calculations, and Debbie's here. And we looked at what it would do to the budget based on how she's using the vehicles that she has. And it doesn't make sense to do that with her fleet at this time. I think we can get a lot more miles out of the vehicles she has based on age, and she is meticulous in her spreadsheets and forecasting. She has another van, so if one does break down, we have that spare. So I think, we ran the numbers. That doesn't make sense for us right now to do, so we're going to leave that alone. The vehicles that you have in front of you right now are the medical examiner's vehicle, and then parks and buildings and grounds. We've been behind on getting buildings and grounds and parks, and so the proposal that's in front of you is for those vehicles. I'm still not sure if the Traverse is one that we will want to do right now because of the fact that the medical examiner's vehicle has special equipment in the back and how she transports bodies. So that's a special custom cabinetry and setup that would need to be moved from one vehicle to the other. But this is just running a calculation on what it would look like. In this scenario, we would sell 7 of our vehicles. And then this runs the calculation on how much we would pay that first year for 8 vehicles. That the 8 vehicles here would be 3 for buildings and grounds, one's for the medical examiner, and the other ones are for parks. One is quite a bit higher because we need another plow on one of the vehicles. So in this instance, we would be on our first year a total spend of $72,000. So as we're moving forward in the budget, what we're doing from the administration and finance, and then of course with the departments, running these numbers and seeing what makes sense. We will move on to, highway doesn't want any part of this right now, and we'll leave that alone. The sheriff's department, that will be another story. But what we want to do is start small, see how this program works, if it's going to work in our budget. And I just wanted you all to have the information as clean as it possibly can be. And then John had asked me about the lease versus the ownership of the vehicles, because we'll sell these vehicles. Well, they will sell them for us. And it is purchase. It's just like a mortgage, you know, it's not a lease. Like I leased a Jeep once and I would never do it again. I gave it back to them after I paid a lot of money for it. It's not that. It's really a financing through enterprise. So you would ask that question.
We keep some
we own-
equity?
Yep,
That's
yep.
okay.
So we're titled, it's titled to us, correct? That's how you understand it. It's like a car loan, just like a car loan as opposed to a lease.
Mhm.
So if your house, you know, if your house is, you buy your house, it's similar to that. So you will have equity. And then these scenarios down here at the bottom, they show you the calculation, because that's what I really wanted to know, the meat and potatoes of, okay, what does it look like at the end? And so this, he just got to me this afternoon because Debbie and I met late last week and got to go through the I believe it was late last week, go through the calculations. And so I had him remove that, and then he was gone until today. So I got this today. So it's just for your information, and we're exploring the option. We don't need an approval, but just wanted to kind of bring up to speed on that.
Okay. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions on this program?
If you go over the mileage, how much do they charge you then? It says on there, if I'm reading this right, I just looked at it, but based on 1,000 miles a month, that's not much for all the parks and facilities that they take care of.
So how they run these numbers, and I can ask specifically on that, it's not like the lease I had 15,000 a year. And after the 45,000, I paid X cent per mile. It's not like that. It would be as if your car, you're selling it at 100,000 miles as opposed to 70,000 miles. And so they want to get to these vehicles before they get to their prime, I guess is what you'd say. So really 75,000 on a car like mine, a Honda, is like that's that point. So it's not a lease in that aspect where you're paying per mile, because that was the same question I had. However, if you put 100,000 miles, that vehicle, just like if you owned it now, is going to be worth less than the vehicle worth 50,000 or having 50,000 miles on it. Does that make sense? Okay. I asked the same question because the word lease is not a happy word from my experience, and this is a ownership, and that's why it's a fleet program, not a leasing program.
Is there some offer like that from any of the car dealers in Washington County? Either Sandali or Wheelers, or I don't know if there's any more, but.
Fleet management?
Is there any program similar to this? Have they been asked or approached?
I think they do leases. I don't know if they do a fleet program.
Knowledge. Sheriff might know. Not to my knowledge. I could reach out if you would like me to.
I mean, they pay taxes here. Enterprise, I don't believe does.
The problem that we've had is that
This is in the county as well.
Sure. No, I get that. I get that. I think the issues we've had is that we can't get the vehicles we need from around here, because that's who we do use. And I don't know if the sheriff, we've had troubles getting even the law enforcement vehicles as well.
I think through these fleet management programs, local dealers can bid towards providing for the fleet management too, can't they?
These are all state contract prices that Enterprise gets. So it would be the same If you can get a vehicle at Sundali, the state pricing like we used to, I don't know that we're getting that right now because of the shortage. COVID kind of threw that off, but we used to be able to get that state contracting right here. Am I misspeaking, Wally? He has the most experience with the vehicles. They have a lot. They use them.
Because zoning just bought two, right? And they got state pricing
Yeah,
on the
better
two that
prices.
zoning bought.
Mhm.
Yes,
So we're still purchasing the vehicles.
correct.
So we're not really doing anything different than before because we own the vehicles before, we'll own the vehicles in the future with this program. Help me out the benefit.
Well, you're softening the blow to the budget as opposed to saying, I need 8 vehicles and we're gonna spend however much these are right now. And all that money, it's just like why you don't we don't finance our own vehicles. We buy them outright. That's how we historically have done it. So this is financing it as opposed to having all that in the bank and taking it out operating and buying it.
The other advantage may be pure
I guess-
procurement, you know, it's keeping like Parks from having to go out or Wally even having to go out to check prices, different
Yeah,
places.
but at
things.
the end of the day, does this cost the county more money?
Well, any business is making a profit. So
Right.
is it costing us more money over the long haul? Probably not, because we aren't doing a real bang up job of going to market with the vehicles when they should be sold. We just don't at all. And then we just don't have the equipment we need. So that, you know, they're making money, but so are we for not keeping the old equipment and not having, you know, like the Ben and Kevin who have just like 1 or 2, 3 people trying to get to all of this at the right time. So if we had a purchasing agent person doing all of this, no, we wouldn't save money because this is a better option.
There are some counties that are doing this too, and we've reached out to some of them too to see
Yeah, and
how it's working for them.
I can send the references too, because
Yeah.
this is brand new and we're just being open-minded on what our options could be. And I'm not like, we have to do this. I'm just bringing the board some options of what we can do in order to, you know, have less maintenance costs and less rigmarole with the vehicles that we do have and make sure that they get sold at a good time so that we can get the vehicles that we need.
Yeah, I understand that. I just want to make sure at the end of the day, it doesn't cost the county X amount of dollars more per year because now we're paying somebody else to manage this for us. I guess is what I'm asking. If there's any way to validate that, I don't know.
I don't think I could quantify it for you.
No.
Yeah.
So do they maintain the vehicles or are we maintaining the vehicles?
Highway wants to continue to maintain our vehicles. You can buy a program where you do all your service through a company. I'm not in favor of doing that. And all of these would have warranty for the 3 to 5 years, whatever they are. So there shouldn't be a lot of maintenance. I believe like at least 12% of our fleet is over 10 years old right now.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, do they have any requirements where there's gonna have to be like certification or
No.
training involved or anything like that?
But they do track how we've maintained them. That's part of the sale is, you know, then they know that it's been on a regular maintenance routine. That
And our highway department does that for us now, and they do analysis for us, so we can just provide that to enterprise.
Okay. With the federal state push to go green on vehicles with e-vehicles, is that something that enterprise is pushing towards? Is that, then we got to consider infrastructure as well for charging and.
This is just a start. So no, we don't have the infrastructure anywhere near us. Even on 39, I don't know that there's much there. So maybe in 10 years. I think it's great. I agree, but I don't think it's gonna do well for us in the next 5 years. I don't know. You guys can correct me.
you know,
So what would the difference be if we actually just financed the vehicles that we bought instead of going through another company, you know, middleman to do that for us.
You mean if I went to the bank and asked for the money as opposed to this?
Yeah. I mean, same type of thing.
I don't know.
Except that enterprise will work within our budget, like we tell them, and then we keep the equity, and then they, when they sell the money, then that goes back into our pot, go towards our next purchase. So it's kind of like our own revolving loan kind of thing. So,
It's not apples to apples.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
a
that-
different concept, but
That thought helps.
Mhm.
Ruth, thank you.
yeah, so basically what they would do is, so like, starting out, it's trying to level off. So like, we've had lots of departments over the years put away like X number of dollars every year, right? Knowing that they're gonna replace a vehicle in so many years. And then they go to buy the vehicle and they still need more money, and then we come and take it out of the general fund. So what this is trying to do is trying to level out that payment. So like every year in the budget, then Melissa will have X number of dollars for fleet. And then all of the vehicles will get rotated out as they need to. And the hope is that some of the vehicles, so like we've been talking with like the sheriff, and like, so some of the vehicles that maybe the detectives are using don't necessarily have to be pursuit vehicles. And so then they would have a higher cost on the outside because they would be more consumer friendly. So like you or I would maybe want to buy that truck versus buying a pursuit vehicle. So then they have a higher resale value. So that will increase our equity for like some of the things that maybe don't have quite as high of a return. The other thing is that enterprise, because they do this in multiple areas, they get in so like if we order a government priced vehicle, we're not guaranteed to get it. And so what they can do is they can look at how many vehicles we need every year, and they say, we would like an allocation for Washera County of X number of vehicles. And then the people who run those government programs and the car manufacturers say, okay, that's great. You want 20, we can only give you 18. But then they can help us manage that so that it's over the years. So right now, even if the sheriff were to order a vehicle, a pursuit vehicle, he's not guaranteed to get it because they're only making so many. So this will help us get in at the early stages of the allocation, because we'll have our allocation in earlier, which they have that advantage over a normal bank.
And then we won't be selling them through public surplus and getting sometimes next to nothing. They're looking at the value of it and saying, hey, we should sell this because your vehicle has this many miles on, as opposed to, you know, we thought you'd have that many miles on in a year from now or a year ago. So they're evaluating the vehicles each year to maximize their profit and ours.
So that, yeah, then that goes right back to like the zoning pickup truck that was
Yeah.
falling apart in the driveway.
Correct.
Yeah,
Which
so
the
then this
garage is
like a-
clean now, and so both zoning vehicles should and can be parked in that garage, because all vehicles should be under a roof if they can be.
Yeah, different vehicles that have different lifespans based on their
Yeah.
department use. So just something we're looking at.
So as you're reviewing it, feel free to send me questions. We don't need any action on it. This is informational, and I'm learning as you guys are learning.
Everett,
When do you need a yes or no on something like this?
it would be something that would go into the budget. Yeah, Melissa could just put it into the budget
Yep.
and we could discuss it as a budgetary item. Is that correct,
Yep.
Ruth? Yeah. So it's just if she chose to go that direction.
And as long as I can stay within the parameters of our budget, or the departments can.
But input is always welcome.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
I-
any questions?
I know we've had a tremendous problem getting the vehicles.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, they'll order them and we won't get something, or they say, well, it's being made, but it's gonna cost you more now because
Our ambulances are like $210,000 now.
you've waited, you know.
Mhm. Okay. Is there any other questions? Okay, good. Thank you, Melissa.
I think I'm next too.
Everything else? Okay. Then we'll move into C, discussion, possible action item, the updated ARPA funding plan.
Okay, so this should be fairly simple. With the ARPA plan, I just wanted to give an update. With zoning, we are removing, with Todd's approval, we have removed the $100,000 that they were gonna be using for the septic dumping. They had that 100,000 and then they had the 200,000 for the reverse osmosis. So the 100,000, Todd has confirmed, and we won't be needing that 100,000, sorry. And so we'd like to remove that from the ARPA list. And then, he also needs about 48,000 for scanning his records so that everything is, well, half of his stuff will then be digital. That will work with our system before we will move out of this building. So it's sort of a reallocation of that money. And then his $200,000 item for reverse osmosis, he confirmed he will not need more than 100,000 for that. So we're just requesting to make those changes.
Okay, and you want that in the form of a motion?
Yep.
Okay, I would look for a motion. Motion by Mark, second by Everett. Is there any discussion? Mark Kirschner. Okay, hearing no discussion, we'll proceed to vote.
Yes.
Aye. Yeah.
Meeting's over.
Okay. Okay, then it passes. Very good. Thank you, Melissa. Then we'll move into the consideration possible action on the following resolution. Resolution number 0907-23, a resolution to reclassify multiple positions on pay scale for year 2024.
Okay, and all department heads, I believe, that are subject to this are here, so if you have any questions for them. Two of these are for human services, and this will actually these two will both be for 2023. It actually says it says in the body, but not in the top, sorry.
Okay.
And both were, we looked at them. It makes more sense to move the positions from 90% to 100%, and then also how they're categorized. We can maximize how we are billing in human services if we adjust some of these. So that's what those two are. And then the Department of Aging is one of the kitchen assistants is under 1,200 hours, but the need is truly over the 1,200 hours. It's still a part-time position, but because of the change and it's a budget impact, Debbie and I talked. She's already offered this to that person because of the need. She has the budget for it, but this just formalizes that. And then IT is the one for 2024 budget, moving the IT support person to an IT support specialist and making an exempt position, moving into the new building and the needs of IT and us only having two people. It is warranted because the person will need to be on call and available all the time, especially starting, end of this year as we start to move into that new building and the highway and getting all the IT set up in both places. So if you have any questions for me or the directors, let me know.
I guess, is there a motion to
Oh, sorry.
support the resolution? Okay, by Mr. Urban. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Eckstein. Okay, any discussion?
Got a couple of questions. The first one for the child welfare case, you talked about you want to turn that into a billing position.
No, the how they're classified and how they're structured affects how when we bill out for our employees.
Yep.
To I don't know if Claire wants to explain this. Sure.
So for the two two positions. The one that's moving from a secretary position in our adult protective services will be becoming a certified peer specialist. That one becomes 100% billable then. And this is an outcome from our consulting auditor who told us that the position as we have it currently structured is essentially archaic and not something that counties even use anymore. There's not a need for it, nor does it bring in income. So this person also happens to be holding this state licensure that's 100% billable through our CCS program. So we're just requesting that we get rid of that old position and create it into a billable position to help our revenue and also better meet needs of human services. The child welfare specialist that you're asking about is actually the position that was vacated by Shelley Reitz in her retirement. And that position historically has done a lot of our paper filing, which we have very minimal paper filing since we've moved to electronic health record system. The position also used to do dictation work, and we don't do any of that anymore. We also have seen an increase in our child welfare cases and child protective services needs. So the change that's being requested there will allow this position to continue the work that Shelley was doing before, but just updating it because, like I said, some of those duties are no longer needed. Plus, this person can then take on a few of our child welfare cases, which will be a support to our child protective services unit and a response to the increasing numbers there. What you guys?
So I guess my question was, if you're moving that to a billing position, when I look at the second page of the explanation, it talks about the box is checked that it's going to affect the county levy.
So only the certified peer specialist is moving to a billable position.
So just one of the positions.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Child welfare specialist, that's a mandated service. Nothing in that unit is billable or ever would be. We do recoup some federal and state funds to keep our mandated services going. So essentially the shift or the impact to the budget there will be that position is going to move from 90% to 100%.
Yep.
And because of the additional duties for doing some case management work, I'm requesting that it bump up one level in pay because it is now requiring a higher level of expertise essentially.
Yep. I just wanted to verify that. Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any other discussion? Any questions?
Yeah, I also have a question. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
As far as Department of Aging, you're currently looking for a fourth person. Is that how I understand this? So this position is to fill in because of the lack of a fourth person?
Sure.
All right, so our preference would be to have 4 people on Monday, Wednesday. Monday and Wednesday, we do 2 hot meals, plus home delivery. So the need is a lot larger number of meals that day. We've been trying for over a year to hire somebody with limited, part-time hours. We just can't do it. So we've been restructuring how we do things out there and trying to operate with a less on Wednesday because we don't have as much prep work. So the reality is that the part-time person, the third person we'll call it, is going over 23 hours a week just because we have to. So now we're in danger of being penalized because of retirement, because we're going over anyway, because we don't have anyone to pull in. Even our subs and that, depending, we do a lot of cross training and they're out at sites. And so there's just capacity. Keeping people under that 23 hours is not as easy as you think. So
you're making this a permanent change, correct?
it's a permanent change. Yeah.
So are you not going to look for the fourth person then? Or what happens if you do hire a fourth?
Yeah, I'd still like to find another. That person would be a fill-in, would be a sub, just doing part-time hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
You would adjust that one, the
Yeah.
job criteria for that person.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
If there's a way, Debbie will find it.
Okay, that answers any other questions? Okay, hearing none, then we can proceed to vote on this.
Aye. Aye, yes.
Okay, the resolution passes. Very good. And we did the next resolution. So we're down to number 9, the board suggestion for future agenda items. Is there anything? Nothing? Okay, then I will look for a motion to adjourn. Okay, moved by Mr. Eckstein. Is there a second? No seconds. Second by Mr. Urban. Very good. We're adjourned. Thank you. We'll stay here. Stay here all.
You don't always want to be the eager one.
Brandon, we'll say, we moved last month's meeting for you.
Yeah.
That's okay. Yeah,
Remote controller?
really.
Yeah, right. So I just.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You say no?
Yeah.